Good evening, everybody. Thanks for listening to Real Pineapple.
Whoa.
Yay!
I'm never ready for those.
I know they come from nowhere. This is Hunter here, and I'm here with Colin. Colin, how you doing, sir?
Hello.
And we're here to talk about. I think a movie. I don't remember if we both put it there. I think one of the three of us put it in our most anticipated movies of the year because I remember, which is Spectre, new Bond film.
Yeah. I definitely was very, very excited for this movie. So I would imagine I had it in the top three.
Yeah, so let's kind of go through this. So I actually went through and I rewatched the prior three Bonds, Casino Royale, which I gotta admit, man, I only saw that once, and I could honestly kind of forgotten about it. So when I went back and rewatched it, I'm like, oh my god, this movie's the shit. I was like,
Yeah, that's my favorite by far.
like god damn, like it's so good.
It's so good, yeah.
And
that totally like revitalized the 007 series for sure, because at that point, like, Pierce Brosnan was turning out like some shitty ones.
You know what's funny though is like, so like GoldenEye is maybe my favorite Bond. It's in the top three at least. But then he did Tomorrow Never Dies, which was okay. And then he did The World Was Not Enough, which I'm like, all right, this is less okay. And then he did Die Another Day, which was just straight up der.
Yeah,
like,
Die Another Day is der.
Especially that part where he's like parasailing on that CGI wave. I was like, god damn it. I'm like, what is happening? So they needed a reboot after this, and you know, in comes Daniel Craig, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Layer Cake, it's a fucking amazing movie. You should watch that. But Daniel Craig comes in like a fucking G, and just Casino Royale is so good, and it's so surprisingly grounded for a Bond film, and it's like, it's cool that one thing that's always kind of bothered me about the Bond films is that they're kind of separate. Like, there's no real consequence in between any of them. They're all kind of standalones, and that's kind of always bugged me a little bit. So I appreciate the fact that this has been like its own 007 story that's like, you know, branched out, you know, throughout these four films. Pardon me. So, you know, so then a Vesper in Casino Royale, his girl gets killed, which was, oh man, when that happened, I was like, oh man, if someone took that fine ass girl away from me, I'd be mad as hell.
And they remind you of all these at the start of the movie too, when they do their typical little Bond entrance musical scene with music done by Sam Smith.
Okay, so, you know, before we kind of jump in, what did you think of the new song? I'm curious.
I didn't understand. Like, it didn't seem like it never said Spectre or nothing. Like, but I don't know. It seemed all right to go with the entrance.
Yeah. So I'll just a real quick kind of follow up here. So Casino Royale is amazing. Quantum of Solace is okay at best. Like, I rewatched that, I was like, man, like, I thought it was okay watching it the first time, and I actually like it less watching it the second time.
Yeah, it's pretty forgettable.
Yeah, so, and then you get into Skyfall, which I fucking adore. Like, despite the giant ass plot hole at the end where it's like, hey, we're gonna go somewhere where we have the advantage, and they go to a place that's secluded with no guns, which just angered me even watching it the first time. I'm like, what are you doing? This makes no sense. But
oh, well, I can't wait to get into what they do at the end of this movie.
Oh, perfect. So, but even still, though, man, Javier Bardem, god damn, he's such a good villain. Like, I love it, man. And so I still love Skyfall, which is why it's going to make it even harder to talk about Spectre, because when they announced Christoph Waltz as a villain, I was like, fuck yes, Christoph Waltz. Like,
yeah, that's why I was so excited for this one, because I was so excited to see Christoph Waltz, who's just been like killing it in the Tarantino movies.
Yeah, Christoph Waltz is so good that he was even good in Horrible Bosses 2 when no one was good in Horrible Bosses 2. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like, he's that good of an actor. Like, I love Christoph Waltz. And Django Unchained, even, like, when he's playing a good guy, he's so charming and just, like, Man, I love Christoph Waltz, and so to get into the the plot of this movie, so you've seen quite a few of the Bond films, right? Like growing up, you saw like some of them at least, right?
Yeah, I think I've probably seen every one at one point. Like when I was a kid, I was super into the old ones, and I watched. I'm pretty sure I've seen all of them. I probably couldn't remember all of them because I saw them when I was really young, but I've definitely seen all of them. I was a huge fan when I was growing up.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I know for me, I kind of went through the list. And I was like, wow, I've seen a lot more of these than even I remember. I think I'm right there with you. I think I've seen almost every one. And so, this movie starts off in I want to say what it's Mexico City. I want to say right because it's like Day of the Dead. I think it's Mexico City.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Mexico City, but it's definitely Mexico.
So, so there was this point growing up. I remember, like, it was almost like James Bond was like he was almost like Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell. Like there'd be some stealth involved, like he'd have the silencer on his gun and everything. Apparently, that's gone out the fucking window because he just blows a hole in the side of a building like it's no big deal. I'm just like, you're double O. Aren't you supposed to like be subtle about this shit? And so through this chase scene, he finds this guy, which leads to a helicopter, fighting a helicopter, which, alright, whatever. And it's all to get this ring, which I was kind of like, alright, that's a little weird. But I'm going to tell you right now, right out the gate, and I remember I said this out loud, I went, uh-oh, because the opening credits for Spectre are so dumb. They are so goddamn dumb. I was sitting there like, alright, this is like not subtle at all. Like this octopus is like wrapped up between Bond and like some girl, and then like the octopus like stretches into like other parts. So I'm just like, this is weird, and like this isn't getting me at all excited for this movie. So as far as jumping into the movie, Spectre, which is like big organization, which is from the old Bond films. You find out that Christoph Waltz, his character Franz, is involved, is like the leader of the organization, and they have ties in the MI6, and all of the stuff that's happened in the prior three movies connects to Spectre. So it's, and I'll let you jump in here real quick, but this felt jumble as hell. Like it really felt like they were like, all right, we need to connect the other three movies somehow, but we don't really want to write a script around it, so we'll kind of just randomly insert shit and hope that people don't think about it.
Yeah, so they did that. I just thought like the way they connected everything was so simple and obvious because they're just like, let's just have it be a big organization that's like super secret, and then we'll just have like the leader of it be Christoph Waltz. The part that really bothered me in this movie is how, so like the movie's probably broken into like 5 like different like countries that he's at, and he does something different in each country, but I felt like the way he handled like getting from point A to point B, like in whatever mission he was doing, was just like not what Bond would do at all. Like he just kind of like walks into places, and like everybody knows he's there every time. Like he's not trying to be like stealthy or a spy. He's not trying to like, he never has like a master plan. Like, he goes straight into this meeting, and he's just, like, chilling, watching, and then, like, all of a sudden Christoph Waltz is like, oh, yeah, Bond, by the way, I know you're here. And then he's just like, oh, shit, and just, like, jumps out the window. And, yeah, it gets even worse near the end, like, when he just, like, straight up goes to the dude's, like, secret fortress and just walks straight in, and, like... And then just gets captured. Like, of course you would. What are you doing? Why are you walking straight in? There's so many better ways you could have accomplished trying to, like, kill this dude.
No, I am so happy you brought that up.
So the movie just kept pissing me off that it was just like, everything was, it's just not what Bond would be doing.
No, I totally agree with you, and it took me back to that scene in Skyfall when he meets Sloane for the first time, and they're on that island, and he shoots all those dudes after Sloane shoots the girl, and he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do, James? Take me back by yourself?" And he has helicopters like there, like fucking ready to take his ass. And he's just like, "Oh yeah, fucking had this like radio transmitter the whole time, motherfucker." He doesn't say that, but he should have said that. But like, but I was sitting there the whole time. I was like, okay, so you clearly know how to plan shit out. So you're right though. He's just sitting there like chilling in that meeting, and Christoph Waltz, his friends, looks up at him and he's like, "Oh yeah, motherfucker, I know you're here. Oh yeah, get him." And I'm just like, God damn it! Like, wouldn't you have a plan for this? One scene that I'm gonna tell you right now drove me insane. So, Leah Sado, I'm gonna butcher her name. It's a French name. What do you want me to say? Her name's Leah Sado, and she was in.
Are you talking? Is she the main Bond girl in this one? Like the daughter of the guy that used to work for. For Spectre.
She's in this. By the way, if you want to see her naked, watch Blue is the Warmest Color, which is delightful. But anyway, actually a much better movie than this. But also she's in this, and so she gets captured because shocker. And so Bond's like, shit, okay. And so Bond disappears off screen for like 2 minutes, and then from nowhere gets a fucking plane. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, where? Yeah. I'm like, where did the plane come from? And there's no explanation at all.
This movie just acts like it's a video game where just things just happen and you're just like, accept it, motherfucker, you dumbass. This is what happens. This is how it happens.
Seriously, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right. So apparently he just pulled a plane out of his ass. Yeah. And literally, there's no mention of an airstrip. They don't even show an airstrip. Apparently the keys were in there too. I'm just like, all right, cool, I guess.
Yeah, and the way that ends when like the wings break off, I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And he's just fine.
Yeah, I mean.
But I mean that's kind of like the trend of movies now, where like your main star is just like, and it's Bond too, so he's indestructible.
Like, I mean, look, and I know some people might be like, well, you're nitpicking, it's Bond. It's like, this isn't like a superhero movie or something like that where he's like genetically enhanced. He's just a regular dude, and he just pulls a plane out of his ass. Like, at some point, I go, you gotta give me some logic here. You have to.
But then, okay, so there's that, which is, I guess someone could say it's nitpicking, but it did kind of like, it does make the movie just feel like really dumb. When things like that happen, like him getting the plane, but also like when he's in a car chase and like Batista's chasing him in a car and he's just like on the phone talking to Moneypenny the whole time, like nothing the fuck is happening. Like that was probably the most boring chase scene that like has ever been in a Bond movie. Like nothing happens. They're just kind of like driving in like a big water duct. And man, that I was watching it and I was like, I feel like no suspense right now. Like I am not into this.
One thing I'll say about Batista, and that was another thing that kind of bothered me, honestly, sitting there watching it, is he's coming off of Guardians of the Galaxy, so I'm like, okay, they're gonna use Batista here. He has one word of dialogue, one goddamn word, and it's right before, shocker, he gets killed, and I was just like. Alright, like, whatever, I guess.
I have to say, that fight scene was probably one of the better fight scenes. That, like, I know we're ripping on it at this point, but I did love that fight scene when it was him and Batista in the train. That was, like, super intense and realistic, I felt like.
No, and that's one of the few things I'll give this movie, is I was sitting there watching that scene, like, this is crazy. I'm like, I'm loving this. And Batista.
Yeah, that was a well-directed, like, action fight scene.
Yeah, well-directed, well-choreographed. So I will totally give the movie that.
Yeah.
Another huge problem, and I know this probably won't apply for you, but so Andrew Scott, he plays this guy named I'm gonna butcher this, but whatever. Dinba, apparently, but he's the guy who works at MI6 who's like, hey, we're working on this new security system where, we can police the world, basically. And the problem is, if you're in the UK especially, you know that the actor Andrew Scott, who plays Moriarty on Sherlock. So the moment you see the motherfucker, you're like, oh, he's shady. There's no goddamn way he's not. So I'm like, your main fan base is in the UK. you gotta not be lazy like that. Because as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, you work for Spectre. And so when it comes out, it was like, oh, I work for Spectre. It's like, no shit, you work for Spectre. I called that like 15 minutes into the movie. So, I mean, just little things like that. I'm like, oh man, you guys are just not fucking trying. And then Moneypenny, who's in this, of course, who I actually like, who they kind of switched up her origin, but like she was kind of a badass in the last movie, but man, they reduced her back to being that good old secretary where she doesn't do shit. I'm just like, all right. And then even Q, they fucking kind of neuter in this movie. It's like he kind
I
of
liked Q in this movie.
like I liked Q, but I feel like they didn't give him a whole lot to do either. I'm just like, all right, like
He was the only part that was funny in this whole movie. Like they had like things where like Bond was trying to be witty and like fail flat, but like Q consistently was the only thing that was like comic relief, which there wasn't even enough of it, but I liked Q.
And then I'm gonna say right now, he's one of my favorite actors. Honestly, I really like this guy. Ray Fiennes, of course, being the Grand Budapest, which I know you love that movie. I fucking love that movie.
You mean Voldemort?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, Voldemort. He's amazing, and oh my god, they didn't give him shit to do, even though he's M. I'm just like, god damn it, like, there's just...
Yeah, and, okay, so in the, like, when we're talking about this, like, the biggest and most glaring one that I was frustrated with is that, like, Christoph Waltz isn't in this movie for, like, 2 hours of it.
So true.
So that's, like, that was my biggest complaint of this movie. Like, if you're gonna, like, show the big reveal of your trailer to be like, look, we got Christoph Waltz, he's the new Bond villain. Like, I want to see more of him. Like, I don't want to, like, see a glimpse of him, like, all shadowed for, like, 5-10 minute scene when they're all in, like, the Spectre meeting, and then not see him again for, like, another hour, and then you see him for, like, 20 minutes when he's just kind of being cynical, and then there's one torture scene, which is, like, the most lazy 007, like, I mean, it might as well have just had Christoph Waltz say, like, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Like, they just, like, stole the scene from, like, Goldfinger. Goldfinger. Yeah. There's a lot of lazy screenwriting.
So, one thing I will bring up as far as the torture scene, so, at a point, Christoph Waltz's character, who, we won't spoil who he actually is, but, they pulled, like, a Star Trek Into Darkness. Remember how me, you, and Scott were all like, oh yeah, fucking Cumberbatch, he's fucking Khan, and Abrams, like, he's not Khan. It's like, bull fucking shit, he's not Khan. And so, same thing here, where they're like, oh, hey, are you playing and he's like, no, I'm not playing It's like, yeah, you are. And so, that person you think he's probably playing, he's playing. So just throwing that out there. But when you get to the torture scene, he's been saying, like, I've been watching you for years, Bond, and da-da-da-da. If you've been watching him for years, why the fuck wouldn't you take his watch? Like, that's just, like, that's Bond 101, and that just kind of bugged me, just, like, because he's supposed to be so, cerebral, like, James, I know you better than you know yourself. And it's like, apparently you don't, because you left me. And
that's why, like, in Casino Royale, like, that shit, I was like, see, this villain's smart. He's got Bond completely naked, like, to make sure he doesn't have anything that he can use to get out of this situation.
And seriously, and that was another thing. I was sitting there like, man, like, and they made use of Vesper, because she pretty much saves him. And I was like, you could have had this Bond girl, you could have had Madeline do the same thing and, like, help Bond out of the situation. But no, they're just like, well, let's have you, like, look really hot in a dress, which she does, goddamn. But like, they really didn't use her at all. And then, just to jump ahead here, the ending of this movie feels so unearned. I couldn't believe how they ended it. I was like, wow. Like, I kind of was like, looking at the screen like, you're not gonna end it like this. No, you're not gonna, oh wow, you're gonna end, fuck, okay. Like, it ends in the most, like, WTF way. And, like, so say what you will, but, like, Casino Royale, like, when him and Vesper, like, they retreat and attempt to live a normal life, like, the movie does a good job of building Vesper up, And I gotta say right now, rewatching Casino Royale, I was like, wow, I have fallen in love with this girl. Like, I totally get why Bond would let his guard down for this one woman. I never got that feeling at all watching this movie. I'm like, alright, like, you're falling for this girl because the script falls for it. So when you two go off into the sunset, I'm like, I don't give a shit because why would I? I don't know anything about her. I don't feel like I know anything about why you two connect. So I, okay, before we get into final thoughts here, man, do you have any other comments you want to make about this, sir?
The only thing else I think I had a gripe with was just that like it dragged. I mean, it's a 2.5 hour runtime, and I mean, there's just like a lot of scenes that like are unnecessary and just like it's like okay, all right, move along. Like there's just a lot of this movie that dragged.
Yeah, the middle section really dragged, and okay, I'm sorry, I forgot about one thing I have to bring up. So, Bond, for the first time, he really felt like a relic of his time because there's this girl named Lucia, where he goes to a funeral because M from the grave told him to, like, whatever, sure. So he kills these assassins who are there to kill her, and then he fucks her, but it's after her husband's funeral that had happened earlier that day, and I'm like, wow, this is like feeling rapey, like really rapey. And the movie's kind of like, oh hey, it's Bond, like he's supposed to fuck her. I'm like, all right, like what the fuck? So I don't know, man. Like as I was sitting there watching this, and I kind of wanted to take almost a week to think about it. I saw this in theaters, and I didn't see it in IMAX or anything. I just saw it regular theater, but I would have been okay watch this on my TV, honestly, like at home, comfortable. I'm gonna give this. Oh man, I'm gonna give this a C, and that might be even being too kind to it. I'm gonna give it a C though. I think you can red box this, and you could get the exact same effect. You can fast forward past the middle section, which believe me does fucking drag. But if this is Bond's last, Daniel Craig's last foray into being Bond, what a disappointment after Skyfall. Yeah, so C for me.
Yeah, so yeah, I had a rating in mind after watching this, and I've after kind of going over it through the course of this podcast, I feel like my feelings are the same. Just to kind of recap my feelings, the things I liked were, I really liked the fight scene, and I kind of liked the interaction between Q and Bond. But there's not a ton else that's really nothing's revolutionary in the series of 007 in this movie. It's very cookie cutter. So yeah, there's a lot of things were just like super bland and not great. Like especially like the opening scene, I wasn't like super impressed by that, especially compared to like when you're looking at like Casino Royale, when that opening scene where it's that free running dude that he's chasing and they're up on the crane, and like that's one of the greatest opening scenes for a James Bond or action movie ever. And this one just is not nearly that cool. Just they're fighting in a helicopter, and I don't know, it just seemed kind of ridiculous. So this movie fell really flat. I completely agree with you. If this is the last one that Daniel Craig does, like what a bummer. You know, after I would say like he had two good ones and two mediocre ones when you look back at, you know, the Daniel Craig era of Bond movies, being Skyfall and Casino Royale. So yeah, I had the rating of C in my mind, and I agree with you. I'm right there with you. It's a C for me. Completely average. Yep.
I gotta say though, man, like, fuck. I mean, I don't know if you reboot. I guess you have to reboot it again since Craig's not coming back. I think you have to reboot it.
Well, they're going to because it makes money.
Yeah.
Like, they would be insane not to just keep doing it. They've been doing it since the 60s, and it just keeps making money. They're like, well, keep making them, so they're going to have to find someone that can jump into this place. So we'll see who they pick.
Yeah, I have as most nerds have been, I've been campaigning for Idris Elba, and I stand by that. Get Idris Elba. He's fantastic. God damn it.
Is he the dude that was in
Pacific Rim?
Yeah, Pacific Rim.
Yeah, the black guy from Pacific Rim.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That would actually be pretty sweet to get a black Bond. I would be down for that.
Yeah, it's kind of long overdue. There's like 24 fucking movies, and there hasn't been like it's kind of like on Doctor Who how there hasn't been a female Doctor. It's like really like this has been around since like the 60s, and there's anyways that's a whole nother rant. But yeah.
Yeah,
like,
I mean it's also based off of a book where I mean it's a white British dude, so I mean it's not like not like an obvious choice. Like let's just completely change the character, but I think it would be cool, and it would reinvigorate the series. I think so. Yeah, I think it would be cool,
and I think that's what they need right now. So but guys, what did you think of Spectre? I mean, were you disappointed like we were? Did you like it a little more? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Follow us here on the Real Pineapple 775 on SoundCloud. Like us on Facebook. Follow me on the Twitter at jhunterrealpineapple, and follow Colin at
Buster Good Boy.
There we go. And guys, we love to hear from you. Thank you so much for continuing to listen. Have a good night, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.